See if I say this word right. Consigliere. How do you say
That's a
it
tough
again?
one. It's like one of those wiggly Italian words. Try like think The Godfather.
Yeah, you gotta talk with your hands.
Yeah, put your fingertips together. Now say it. Consigliere.
So the consigliere.
I think I just found my beginning part.
So yeah, make sure you cut all this out.
Yeah, I know I will.
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe.
You mean our guest tonight is
Dedicated to truth, justice, and peace. It's the world's greatest superpower show.
And welcome to Mining the Multiverse. My name is Gabriel.
And I'm Jerimey.
And we are here to talk about comics, culture, and creative ways to bite the dust. Jeremy, this week's death du jour is this. If you had to choose a way to go, which would it be? A, be slowly submerged into whatever it is Subway uses in their tuna sandwiches, or mildly irritate Frank Castle.
Okay, so I hate tuna fish sandwiches. I've never had fresh tuna. I can't speak on that. But when it comes to like canned tuna,
Your classic American tuna fish sandwich?
no. Yeah, I'll go ahead. And Frank doesn't really take a lot of time dispatching the people he doesn't care for. So I'll take that instead of drowning in whatever putrid, nasty tuna crap they use. So I'll go ahead and annoy Frank.
All right. Yeah, that seems actually like the wise choice. Actually, when I was writing this out, that was my immediate, whatever. Just step on the back of his shoe or whatever. Just whatever it takes. It'd just be a quicker way to go.
You'd have to do some pretty gnarly shit to really get him to kill you, because he's not a murderer. He's a vigilante. But yeah, I'd still take that option than that tuna shit. No.
Yeah. I don't know. Have you ever had someone just step on the back of your shoe?
Flat tire? Oh, yeah. I do it to my kids all the time, and they hate it. Hate it. So, yeah, that might be enough.
Yeah, I'm sure you've gotten the death stare from at least one of your kids to know, oh, yeah, if you had an AK-47, I would be smoked right now.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to find out all of the creative ways Frank Castle has to dispatch with his problems. In this week's discussion of Garth Ennis's 2001 Punisher storyline, Welcome Back, Kotter. Or Frank. It's one of those classic, famous New York people. Welcome back, Frank. Yeah.
Let's hope somebody draws Frank with Kotter's hair.
Wouldn't that be amazing? If you see that, please send a tweet our way, and because I need to have that in my life.
Kotter had a mild afro, right? It was pretty.
Yeah.
curly.
Think about like minor Bob Ross.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'd be a very disgruntled Bob Ross on the page,
but with a mustache. It's a thick old 70s mustache. But before we get into all of that, I actually wanted to go a little off pattern here, and I want to talk about a recent visit I had to my local comic shop. And that is Outer Plains in Santa Rosa, California. The owner there, Tom, great guy. When I walked into the shop recently, so, COVID, shops are adapting,
Yeah.
and I had to go down for a doctor's appointment kind of in the neighborhood. And I thought, what, I'm going to stop in. I'm going to pick up a couple, physical books to go over for the show and, try to, help out.
Sure.
My local shop.
Absolutely.
And I was pleased to see when I went in that there was a few customers. Everyone was social distancing. Everyone was being good.
All masked up.
Yeah, everyone was being good.
Good.
But it was quiet enough to where Tom was able to, when he first stepped in, he said, "Hey, how's it going, man? What are you looking for?" And I tried something new. I haven't really ever done this before. I've been a comic reader for a long time. You too. We have our regular stuff.
Sure.
Right? I know what I'm looking for. I know what writers I'm looking for. I know what artists I'm looking for. I may ask that, hey, what's Mike Mignola up to these days? But I'm very directed, right? So, tried something new. I just looked him square in the eyes. And I asked, what do you think is underrated that you wish more people were reading?
Oh, that's a good idea.
And I can tell you, the look on his face, if you ever want to like completely make your comic shop proprietor's day, ask them that question, because they have been dying to hear you ask that question.
Absolutely. I mean, they have obviously access to every book. So I would imagine that they are reading stuff that just goes under the radar a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely. Take advantage of the fact that you have a local expert in the arts who is there to help you make decisions. So I picked up a couple books this week that we are going to be covering on the show because they were all awesome. Like, he pointed out a bunch of winners. I had to narrow it down to 3 because I made a money. I run a podcast. So, but winners. Every one of them. So
nice.
A few I wanted to mention to you, Jerimey. I thought you could take a look at some of the art. I know that, as an artist, stuff carries a lot of weight with you, and,
sure.
and all of it's awesome. So
sure,
the first thing I picked up was the Immortal Hulk.
Okay.
And this is all current stuff. This is all new stuff you can get at your shop. And this is trade paperback. And it is Cronenberg does Bruce Banner. It's very body horror,
okay,
nastiness. So one thing, like when you discuss the Hulk, when you're talking about the Hulk, so much of the conversation is about strength. It's
yes.
about power,
yes,
right? But you don't really get into his healing factor a lot.
It's one of those things that is, everybody knows that he has it, but it's never highlighted. Yes,
sure, we talk about it with Wolverine all
right.
the time, but Hulk has the same level healing factor. This gets into that.
Yeah. I'm looking through some of the art just off of a quick Google search of just Immortal Hulk, and you're right. It's very Cronenbergish with some of these panels. It's pretty ugly stuff.
Yeah. There's some transformations. There's some very thing, kind of stuff moving around.
Yeah. This looks like his body is like liquefied and is enveloping like it's crazy. Yeah, there's some pretty nasty panels that I'm looking at here. Ooh, he crawls out of himself. What the frick?
So, I think you'll enjoy that.
Yeah. No, I love that. The darker, the weirder, the better, And in this panel, he is literally ripping off his own skin. Okay. Now I'm interested.
So, we're going to stay surprisingly mainstream, because that's your Marvel, right?
Yeah,
so we'll stick,
for sure.
We'll keep it the mainstream, and we'll go to DC, and I picked up Wonder Woman Dead Earth. And this is an oversized hardcover book, and it's beautiful. It's got really nice pages. The colors is really popping. It has a Frank Miller-ish kind of feel to it.
Just gonna say the cover I'm looking at here has a very Frank Miller-ish feel.
Yes.
It is not Frank Miller, but it feels like it.
This is the same creative team as the book I'm going to talk about next, but I want you to kind of see the variety here. This is by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer.
Okay.
And the general synopsis of this is, so this is a Wonder Woman book again. Diana awakens from a century-long sleep and discovers Earth has been reduced to a nuclear wasteland.
Wow.
That's where you're starting. And it just gets all Roman Colosseum-y and big battle scenes. And,
right. This art is really interesting. She is ripping the spine out of what looks like to be Superman's corpse. Gonna have to check this one out.
So the same creative team who did the Wonder Woman Dead Earth also did what I am very excited to talk about. We're going to be talking about it on the show soon. It's a book called Murder Falcon. And this is brought to us from Image. And this is the story of intergalactic monster slaying with the use of rock and roll. This is so right up my alley. I can't even tell you.
So I'm seeing a chicken, or a falcon, obviously.
Yeah, but yeah, it's got some strong chicken vibes.
Yeah, he's got some chicken vibes, but he's got a huge robot arm and a red bandana, so he looks a bit like a chicken cyborg Rambo.
That's a great description. Yeah, it's got kind of a steampunk anime kind of vibe to it too. So there's lots of robots. There's lots of big clunky machinery. Yeah, it's a good time, and it's the story of Jake and Murder Falcon And Jake plays guitar, and Murder Falcon does kung fu, and they are here to save Earth from monsters. I mean, what more do you want?
He says, "Hey, ugly, yeah, I'm talking to you," and it's this big, giant, nasty beaked thing. It looks kind of like a dragon mole. Let's see. There'll be no baby eating on my watch. What the heck do you think you're doing? We've tried everything, and this is a cop talking. You're going to get yourself killed. I don't need weapons, officer. And he unzips his bag that's over his shoulder, and he says, I brought metal. And it's a very long, he's got long blonde hair, and he's got his guitar out, and he's ready to shred. That looks sick. Yeah, no, I really dig the art. The art's great.
Yeah, it was total, out of left field. And my shop guy, Tom, he was on it. He had it displayed, and it was just waiting. It was just waiting for someone to enjoy it. So if you get a chance, next time you go to your shop, ask, what do you think more people should read? And you will likely find some winners. So
yeah, I mean, this looks great.
Pro tip.
It's comic book store hacks.
That's right. Yeah, make the most. Make the most of your visit. Like we can't go there like we used to. You used to be able to just go and hang out all day, and you had the luxury of touching every single book with your nasty, disgusting,
coughing
disease
and
infested
sneezing
hands
all over everything. Yeah,
stop it. Yeah, so now go in, talk to an expert, get pointed in the right direction, and then get the heck out of there. Spend some money, get the heck out of there.
And don't be afraid to try something new, because chances are it's going to be a genre or a subject matter that you aren't too hip with. Maybe you don't know, it's different from what you usually read, but that's okay. Yep. Be open.
Yep. And I remember years and years and years ago, possibly hundreds of years ago, Jerimey and I going into a comic shop, not knowing what to get, and him asking the owner, hey, what do you like? And what did he tell you? He
told me Preacher, which is by the same team, Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon, as the Punisher book we're about to cover.
See, it all comes around. So you never know what you might love. So ask an expert.
Absolutely, I agree.
That's my lesson for today. That's the Minding the Multiverse lesson of the day. Ask an expert.
Yeah, pro tips. I like it.
All right. So speaking of, we're going to rejoin one of our favorite creative teams, and we're going to jump into the Punisher. Now, this is something I don't have a lot of experience with. Punisher's always been on my periphery. I'm a Spider-Man. I'm a Daredevil. But Punisher, I was a sweet, nice kid. I didn't roll with Punisher when I was a kid. So, looking forward to it.
You weren't one to play army,
No, I wasn't allowed. I didn't have any toy guns when I was a kid. I wasn't allowed to play with G.I. Joes. It's a very pacifist lifestyle I grew up with.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm sure if I brought home a Punisher comic with Frank Castle dual wielding assault rifles on the front, it might not have made it through.
No, I don't imagine that would have gone over well. Yeah, no. So when it comes to this book, I have to agree with you. I've never really been a big Punisher fan. It's not a book that I was ever really interested in. One of my other best friends, he became a Marine in later life, and so obviously when he was younger, he loved Punisher books. But it was never my thing. And I found through a very tiny bit of research that I did with this is that a lot of people who love Punisher aren't huge fans of this kind of take on the Punisher, where it's a little bit more wacky, a little bit more zany, kind of cartoony in some respects. The story is bonkers. The things that the Punisher does is bonkers, and the characters are wacky and cartoony, but that's what I love. I like comic books to be fun, not serious, and Punisher tends to be more on the serious side. Yeah.
And I did notice that. I was putting together some of the artwork for the YouTube thumbnails and all that stuff that we do, and as I'm going through it, I was like, this is weird.
Yes.
This is like he's punching a polar bear.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to finding out what this is about.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, there was some lighter stuff that was still handled with that Garth Ennis style where totally. it is silly, but it's still dangerous.
It's very much, there's him punching that polar bear wasn't because the polar bear was doing anything wrong. That's why if you go and read this book, you'll see, or if you just Google it, you'll see the very confused polar bear. The look on his face is like, why am I being punched? I don't understand what's happening.
It's like that. You see that video of that Australian guy who gets in a fist fight with a kangaroo?
Yes.
And then when the kangaroo gets punched in the face, it has that same look of, wait, did that just happen?
Yeah.
Did you just punch me in the face?
Is this real life? Why is this thing hitting me? Yeah. And it's great. And that's why I love Garth Ennis so much, is because he can write really good stories and really awesome characters. But then it's fun, and it's not too serious. I don't really like dramas when it comes to movies or TV shows. You know, I want my entertainment to be entertaining. So lighthearted, not real, you know, I like it to be fake because it's entertainment. But anyways, when it comes to Ennis and Dillon, I don't think you can go wrong.
No.
So, so with this book, I think, like was mentioned before, it's 2001. And it's actually under the Marvel Knights.
It was one of the first, I think, under that.
Yeah.
That label.
And I honestly never would have picked up The Punisher had Ennis and Dillon not worked on it. I really just, it wouldn't have been on my radar at all. And I'll occasionally, you know, find out what is new with those guys. Unfortunately, you know, Dillon's no longer with us, but I'll still look up Garth's stuff and see what he's writing. And even if it's something that I would never read before, I'll check it out.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, he has that kind of petouree where it's like Martin Scorsese presents like oh, this is probably gonna be a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I mean, if he retold the story of like Beanie Babies, you know, it's probably gonna be good. It might be a little strange, but it's probably gonna be good. Scorsese's no slouch.
Yeah. It's like Moneyball. It's a movie about baseball stats that's somehow incredibly interesting.
Yeah, right. So yeah. Anyways, I'm a huge fan of Ennis and Dillon, and I honestly can't wait till we cover Preacher, because I want to do the whole freaking thing.
Yeah, that's gonna be like a 20-part series.
Yeah.
That we'll probably need to get legal representation before we tackle that, before we get sued by every religious organization.
Oh, fuck them all. I love that book so much. Anyway, and I think it's only 66 issues, so I mean, we could make it 66 parts. Holy shit.
Oh, you just going panel by panel. It would just be an audiobook version.
That'd be great. Okay. Back to Punisher. Sorry.
All right.
So this book it's not as crazy nut barish as the Preacher can get, but it has its moments for sure. It's unmistakable that Ennis and Dillon worked on this book. And essentially this first trade that I have, it's 12 issues, and it's Frank Castle has returned. You know, it's welcome back, Frank. And this is I can't talk about prior to this.
Okay.
I don't know if he had gone somewhere or something. I don't think so, based off of what I've found out. It's just kind of a reboot under the Marvel Knights banner.
Right. So is it like the number one of the Marvel Knights?
It might be. I didn't.
Okay. So like it's just a reset.
It's just a reset, but it's under the Marvel Knights. So you know, I don't think it follows. Previous stories.
Did you know that Howard the Duck had a Marvel Knights run?
I didn't. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had a whole series. Yeah, it was one of the first Marvel Knights.
Damn. Yeah, we'll have to check that out. If it's under Marvel Knights, that means it's going to have some pretty gritty shit. So Frank Castle has returned. It's the book is called Welcome Back, Frank. So, like I said, I don't know where he's been. I was not familiar with his story up until this point, and he mentioned some of the stuff that you might remember from the past. Like, I'm sure you've seen like Punisher's battle van.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, I think it's shown up in cartoons, I want to say.
Yes. Yeah. That's like one of the only things I know about the Punisher too. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. And there was a period of time where he had all those Gidgets and Gazmos and all that kind of stuff. And this is a return to the basics. And a lot of this story is told through his thoughts. He doesn't interact with people very much, so it's very much everything that is just he's thinking.
Okay. So it's a lot of like inner dialogue.
Lots of inner dialogue.
Is he new to it?
Nope.
Or is he okay? So
Nope.
This isn't like a Batman Year One thing where like this is his first
Nope.
go around.
No, he has returned, and again, he may have gone somewhere in a storyline before this started, and I don't know about it.
Gotcha. But he's in New York City. He's getting into business. Does it feel like a reboot?
It does. No, I mean, it feels like a new beginnings.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say a reboot because people respond like once they realize what's going on, they're like, "Holy shit, he's back."
Okay. So he's a known quantity in this world. He's not new. Got it. Okay.
Very much. So it's kind of like, I guess you could say, maybe it's the Punisher with Marvel Knights. Welcome Back, Frank is a return to form, and it's like the rated R version of what's going on in the regular story, possibly.
Because that's kind of what Marvel Knights was for, right? It was for more adult stories,
stuff, yeah.
More, and which in your Marvel pantheon, it's Punisher's right in there. He's always been borderline appropriate for children.
Sure. Yeah. If you want to get appropriate for children or talk about that, I don't think he's a vigilante who murders people no matter what. They might be bad guys.
He's in the Spider-Man universe. I'd be reading Spider-Man books, and then here's Punisher, who's skull on his chest and Rambo guns on each side. It's like, this guy kind of sticks out.
Absolutely. And, Daredevil shows up in this book. So, yeah, he's very much a part of the universe as a whole.
Okay,
sure.
Good.
So, this book, this first six issues that we're reading or going over today is, this is the first part. We're going to break this up into two. We're going to try something new here.
Yeah. This is going to be it's a good, thick story that we want to spend some time with. And so, yeah, we're going to break this into two, at least two parts.
At least two. I don't think we'll need more than two for the first trade, since we usually only go over the beginnings of a book and move on. This is the first 12 issues that we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
And in this first 6 issues, he's dealing with his sights. Frank Castle's sights are set on now I could be wrong about the pronunciation, but it's the Nucci family.
Yeah, that looks right.
Yeah. Particularly, it would be Ma Nucci, the matriarch of this family, and her offspring, and a very, very minor non-appearance of her brother, who's also terrible, apparently. They don't really go over it, but Frank explains to somebody that he needs to die regardless.
Okay.
So that's what this is about. Frank is back, and he's going up against the Nucci family. And like we said earlier, it's a lot of inner dialogue, and he's talking about how he's going to go back to basics. No battle van, no fancy tech. And while he's saying this kind of stuff, he's walking into his new cover hideout place, and it's just a room full of guns. Nothing crazy, tech wise, just guns, explosives, body armor, simple stuff. Right? Simple tools.
Yeah, Punisher stuff.
Yeah, and just a guy who hates crime,
Mm. Yeah.
He does not like the bad guys, and he is on his mission. Everybody knows what Punisher's mission is. He's out there to punish the bad guys. And he does a lot of punishing in this book. Even in the first 6 issues, I in my notes I write, how the main antagonists, there's lots and lots of henchmen. Mm-hmm. He goes through a lot of henchmen in this book. It's awesome.
And are they nameless henchmen, or do they each have a little story? Or
no? What's really funny about it is that since it's like an Italian crime family, the Nucci family, mm-hmm. He'll be catching these people by surprise and shooting people full of holes, and as guys are going down, you hear on the pages chatter from other guys, oh, there goes Big Nose Tony kind of shit, and so all these henchmen tend to have a name, but they're totally unimportant. I'm not going to go over every single person that has a name, but if you want to get technical, there's a lot of named characters in this book, but it's mostly henchmen.
Gotcha.
And they don't last long. And a lot of them, because he is established, they know that they're fucked. Some of them have some of these henchmen are like we could take this guy kind of attitude. Let's go get him. And then they're, handily dispatched. So yeah, it's great. it's really great. So we start out chapter 1, right? Chapter 1 is just called Welcome Back, Frank. And this is all about getting him set up into the story, showing him being back and his choosing to go with the no nonsense approach to killing all these bad guys. And it's all about his goal in this first, issue is sending a message to the Nucci family, primarily Ma Nucci, the mother of this organization. Mm-hmm. So, Frank just goes ahead and, okay, here's another thing I have to mention before I get too deep into it, is that there's a lot of like plot armor in this writing. It's so like the Punisher, Frank Castle, he's a really amazing detective.
Okay.
He always knows where the bad guys are going to be, kind of situation.
Okay.
And there's some panels where it shows him in the background, like he's always following people. He does all of his reconnaissance during the day, kind of situation. And there's a panel where he says, hide in plain sight. Try it sometimes. It works. So he's always around. Nobody notices him, but he's always there, and he's gathering all this intel because he knows where the bad guys are going to be before they know where they're going to be, kind of situation.
And so when he's trying to blend in, he's not wearing a giant skull on his chest?
No, he leaves that one at home.
I imagine there's just like a T-shirt that still has like a little bit of a skull on it. Like,
yeah,
just so you know it's still him.
No, nothing like that. He blends in. He's wearing a baseball cap. He's got his hands in his pockets, and it's like a members only coat.
Gotcha. Yeah, nobody sees that guy. Trust. Yeah,
nobody sees that guy.
No.
And he's hunched over. He's kind of pulling a Clark Kent.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Frank is big. He's a big,
right.
especially in this book.
Yeah.
He's drawn massive.
Yeah.
And so
he's doing that posture to make himself look small.
Yeah, just some background,
Right.
Nobody important. And it starts off with a gun, and I don't kill me, listeners, about what these guns are. I have no idea. I'm gonna call it an Uzi. It's a gun that if you pull the trigger, it sprays a whole lot of bullets.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Submachine gun, maybe. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Everybody, we're both from California, so yeah, we don't know anything about guns. I'm sorry. Like it's not a personal thing. I have no judgment here. I know one of our listeners specifically, I'm sure, is screaming at his radio to tell you exactly what kind of gun it is.
Probably.
But yeah, sorry, man. No, we just don't know.
No idea. It's a gun, and when he points it at things, they die.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. So he follows, so see, with that being said, he knows where everybody is all the time, right? Mm-hmm. He starts off by, hitting all of the drug deals kind of thing. Mm-hmm. All the big plays he's there for, So none of these guys get away with it. He murders them all extremely fast. And this is a very funny way to set up his reintroduction, is he's got his gun under the chin of this guy in an all white suit or with a ponytail, and it just says, "And get a haircut." And so obviously, and on the panel we can see that Frank is standing next to some dead bodies. There's spent casings on the ground. There's pistols, and there's feet and hands. Lots of blood splatter. So we know that we're coming into this after some shit went down, right?
See, the world's most dangerous supercuts. I was just here to get this ponytail removed.
No, don't go there. And I'm only going to go over this front part in detail more than anything else in this because it's so funny.
Okay.
And this is how the book opens. So he, and get a haircut. And then the next page it's a wide shot. And you could see all these dead bodies. You could see the mayhem that just went down. There's drugs all over the table. There's money inside of a briefcase, and this guy's on the phone and he's talking to this guy and he's telling him how he just showed up to this place to get his fix, basically. He wasn't a part of whatever was going on in the room. He was just some junkie who had a connection. Or just maybe he's a member of the gang, right? But he wasn't there as part of what was happening. He was just there to get some drugs.
Got it.
And the guy running the show says, yeah, just, cool it for a bit. I got to take care of business. And while you wait, he gets, he does some drugs. So he's just tripping. He says on the phone to this guy, I'm just tripping, just chilling. And all of a sudden, you know, and he's on the phone, right? He's lighting a cigarette. He's super freaking scared. He's sweating, and he's kind of manic on the phone, telling just, you know, you could tell that his adrenaline is still just spiked through the roof, right? Mm-hmm. And he says, you know, all of a sudden the door comes busting in, and it's the Punisher, man. And he goes through and he talks about how these guys got wasted and how he just begged for his life. I wasn't here for this. This wasn't my thing. I was just here to get drugs. And that's where that little quote of him and get a haircut is he's telling this guy on the phone, you know, he says, he calls me a hippie. You know, he says, tells me to get a haircut, don't do drugs, get a job, get on the straight and narrow. And this is the only chance you get. And I'll be watching, right? So that he's on the phone telling this guy. Now he starts to get this look on his face like, but guess what? All these guys are dead, and I'm sitting on all of this merchandise. So he's telling us, he's like, listen, there's enough money and drugs here to set us up for life.
This was not the lesson.
This was not what Frank wanted for this fella, you know. He out of the kindness of his heart. I know. He listened, he believed, he gave this, you know, seemingly just some junkie a chance at life, right?
Right.
I mean, this guy knew who he was dealing with, the frickin' Punisher.
Yeah.
Everybody knows who the Punisher is. He's the only one that knows he's back at this point. So he's on the phone and he's like, look, it means I'm sitting on enough product to set us up for the rest of our lives. And all you have to do is drive down here and pick me up, and then he cuts off. And it's 3 simple panels. The first panel is him on the phone with this look on his face of like, yeah, we got all of this money, we got all of this drugs, right? Mm-hmm. And then he stops talking, and the next panel down is the Punisher being a good head taller than this guy, so his head's out of frame. He's sweating very profusely now as he glances over his shoulder with his eyes, with a very sad look on his face. And then it's a very close up shot of just kind of like half his head, his eyes and nose, and the top of his mouth. And he says to his buddy on the phone, I have to go now, Mike. And the Punisher's literally holding onto the side of his head with both hands. He just came up right behind him and just grabbed the side of his head. Right? Or grabbed on either side of his head. Uh-huh. And then you turn the page. And this poor fella, this ponytail, he's laying on the ground, back on the ground, with his face pointing towards the floor. And his neck twisted and broken. And Frank is pouring gas over him, over the money, over the drugs, and it shows him throwing a grenade to light it all up. And it shows, you know, the typical walk away from the fire without looking at it. Cool scene.
Got
So, and it's very stark. You know, it's a black silhouette of the Punisher with the flames in the background, and the big skull on his chest is very visible. And in this version, the skull isn't just like on his shirt. The main part of the face is on his chest, his whole abdomen really, and then his belt has the white teeth.
Yeah, it's a cool look.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a all dark suit, you know, no frills, and then a big symbol. Like you can't mistake that. Like he's not trying to hide it.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the design. And also, listen, if the Punisher gives you a chance and tells you to get a haircut, just get the haircut and walk away.
Right. And
don't be clever. Just
The thing about Steve Dillon's art that a lot of people who might not like his art, I don't know if they'll agree with me or not, but Steve Dillon is great. And you've read The Preacher. He's great at emotive faces.
Yeah, I could completely imagine, as you were describing it, I could see it very clearly in my head. I know exactly how he would paste that out.
Absolutely. And it's fantastic. You can see how the change in his face as he gets the idea. He's on the phone crazily talking to his friend about how he witnessed all of this, and the first panel is him lighting a cigarette because he's fucking jittery, right? Yeah. And you could see the worry on his face, but then as it progresses, the art is so fantastic. You can see how he finally gets that idea. Oh shit, money and drugs, we're set for life. And then the realization that he done fucked up. And then the Punisher twists his fucking head around.
But still, that was still the look of relief of someone knowing that at least now there's no chance of them dying in a vat of Subway sandwich tuna.
He knows that he's done over quick. He doesn't have to breathe in.
Done.
No tuna death. Quick.
So there's that.
Probably painless.
Yeah.
Maybe not. And so here's where I actually realized, and that's just the very beginning, right? It's just here he is doing his job kind of opening. And have you ever seen The Punisher from 2004 with Thomas Jane?
No, I kept seeing it referred to while going over this stuff, but no, I have not.
Okay. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic.
I've heard it's very good.
I think it's great. I think it's an awesome movie. Underrated, I think. Comic book fans probably like it well enough. I don't know if there was a lot of hate towards it.
No.
Generally, when John Travolta is something, people kind of bag on it. Even though John Travolta is just fine.
Who is he in the Punisher movie?
He plays Howard Saint, if I remember correctly. He's the main bad guy. So in the movie, the Nucci family is kind of replaced with the Saint family, Howard Saint, and like his little empire. And that's my point being is that I find out, and that I don't remember this, but until I just reread it, a lot of these characters are the ones that the movie based their characters on, like to the T with it when it comes to their names and their look and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he's going by John Smith. It's this very unassuming apartment building, and he walks up and Mr. Smith, dude, it's this guy he's got red spiky hair and he's got chains and stuff all over his face, piercings, tattoos. He's real skinny, and Frank just says, hello, Dave, and Dave says, Spacker Dave. I don't know what Spacker means. Spacker, Spacker Dave.
Isn't that what you put in your walls to fill holes?
I think that's spackle. But he says Spacker Dave, and that's like a running theme with them. He'll come home and Dave will say, what's up, Mr. Smith, in some way like that, and Frank just says, hello, Dave, and he's Spacker Dave. I don't know what the Spacker is. I should look it up.
It is British slang. It is offensive British slang, by the way.
A spacker, huh?
A spack is a clumsy or foolish person.
Oh, that makes sense.
So he's dumb Dave.
He's he's dumb Dave. Spacker Dave. Okay, that fits, actually. Spacker Dave is a very nice fellow.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. But he seems a bit of a loser. And then he's walking, through the halls this time because Dave was outside in this scene, and he runs into, somebody says, hi, Mr. Smith, and he says, hello, Mr. Bumpo. And Mr. Bumpo is a very large fellow, and he's currently stuck in his doorway. Like literally can't get out of it. He tried to leave his apartment, and he's stuck in his doorway. And Frank grabs his shirt and yanks him out, and Mr. Bumpo says, thanks.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's very nice. And he says nothing. Like, the only thing Frank really says to these people is hello or goodbye, right? There's not a lot of talking. He's thinking throughout all of this. He's thinking about what he needs to do. He kind of comments a little bit on his neighbors and how he needs to lay low and all that, typical stuff about somebody who's hiding. But we meet his final neighbor, and her name is Joan. And Joan, she kind of watches him go to his room or his apartment, and she kind of bites her lip. Like, she's got a little bit of a crush, right? Frank's a big boy, he's a handsome guy, dark hair.
Dangerous.
Very, very tall, dark, and handsome kind of thing, right? So this is the scenes that I was talking about earlier, where it just establishes that he's thinking to himself how he's ditching all the fancy shit, and he's just getting back to basics. And throughout this first issue, he just dispatches all of Nucci's sons. It's just like my previous reviews of books. I don't want to give a lot away. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really zany shit that happens in this, and I'll talk about some of it. Okay. But if I was to say some of these things, it would really spoil it for the reader, because Ennis's work just needs to be, and Dylan's work as well, needs to be read and seen for yourself.
Yes, no, I agree.
It's hard to describe just how funny and how fun it is to read this stuff. It's so ridiculous,
especially for the subject matter.
Absolutely, because it's so dark. And there's another thing. There's a lot of like kind of time jumps in this book. Like, we see him in his apartment, and he's in his gun room, and then the very next page is a guy in a morgue, and he's crying over his baby brother. And basically, this is one brother is he's a Nucci brother. I'm trying to remember which one this was. Carlo, Bobby, and Eddie. That's right. Okay, so Eddie is the one who was doing that drug deal from earlier in the beginning of the book.
Oh, okay.
And he's dead and burnt up full of holes on the in the morgue on the slab, right? Eddie was the one who said, to Ponytail, hey, just chill, I gotta finish this first, right? And it turns out that Eddie, he's the brother of Bobby, and Bobby is crying over his brother. He's like, I'm gonna get the people who did this. He doesn't know who it is. Nobody knows. His henchmen don't know. It's just his brother's dead and he's pissed. Well, there's some goons outside and they see Frank walking up. And they're like, hey, pal, you better leave. We got a guy in here who's grieving. You should probably take a hike if you know it's good for you. And Frank pulls out I don't even know what kind of knife this is. It's like brass knuckles with a big-ass knife on it instead of knuckles.
Whoa.
And he punches the guy right in the heart. And
Whoa.
and the scene is, the art, again, it's so expressive. The guy is so surprised, and his buddy's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then he pulls that out of his chest and stabs him right in the frickin' forehead with it. So he then goes through the door, and they're like super surprised. They're looking at every single one of these people's faces like, oh shit. And somebody says, oh no. And he says, he's got a shotgun. He says, oh yes. And he says and he's thinking, there's more inner dialogue. He says the first thing they do is freeze, like always. So number one, what does he say? So number one's a freebie. So the first person is a free one because they all are shocked and they freeze, right?
Huh? Yeah.
As soon as he blasts the first guy, the other ones freak out and finally draw their weapons, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it's the freaking Punisher. He takes care of them, no problem. And Bobby's like, Punisher, you psycho, you're dead. And Punisher just takes a shot right into or shoots the guy right in the shoulder, just shreds it, right? Throws him up onto his dead, burnt brother's body. And he's just screaming, right? Because he's literally laying on top of his brother. Oh, and if I have these names backwards, I apologize. So, he's in a gunfight in a morgue. And he already took out most of the guys. There's a couple of guys hiding behind bodies. And Frank kind of one-handed grabs a stiff by the hair and yanks him up. And he's kind of a thick, kind of a fatter guy.
Oh, God.
And and the guy he's currently in a shootout with is like, come on, let's do it, let's go. And he also pulls up a stiff. But Frank thinks to himself, he says, gunfight in the morgue, rule number 1, don't hide behind the thin guy. And he shoots through the dead body and kills the henchman, right?
That's dark.
It's super dark.
But good. It's truth. Yeah, good lesson. Yeah, I mean, human shields are one thing, but when they're not alive anymore, just shoot through it, I guess.
I mean, yeah, you want a thicker shield, right?
Right. If I'm if my corpse is in a shootout, and the good guy's got to shoot through me to get to the bad guy, go for it. It's fine. It's fine.
So we see that guy get shot, right? He failed at rule number 1. And then in the next panel, we see the guy falling to the floor, and his buddy who was next to him is like, oh dear Lord, not me, no. He's freaking out, right? And Punisher thinks to himself, rule number 2, shut up. And this is where we see a grenade falling from that guy's face. So that didn't work out too well for the henchman, and we got Bobby Nucci. He's leaning up against the slab that his brother's currently on. And he walks up and he says, got a message for your people, Bobby. Listen. And he just pulls the trigger. Shoots him square in the chest. The message was, you're dead.
I was going to say, like, a message for who? Everyone else is dead. You already killed everybody.
And that's what I love about these first 6 issues is that it's no nonsense in terms of his interactions with these people. He doesn't talk to them, really. You know what I mean? He doesn't explain himself in any way. And I can only imagine that's in keeping with the Punisher character. Mm-hmm. But again, this is my first introduction to him, so I love it. It's so funny how it's just no nonsense. Why does he need to talk to these people, right? They're the bad guy, and they need to go.
So is most of his dialogue inner dialogue?
Absolutely.
Okay, so he's not doing a lot of monologuing or no big speeches or anything?
No, nothing out loud. I if I were to go back and count how many word bubbles he has, out loud, it's probably half a dozen up to this point. But almost every single page with him on it has inner dialogue with a lot, denoted by, a yellow box instead of a white box.
Got it.
So yeah, he's thinking and he's considering everything that he's doing. He has thoughts. He's not a robot, but he's not speaking. There's no reason to speak to any of these people, even his neighbors. Very, very formal and not even that sometimes. So then we go and we find him tailing the third brother, which is Carlo. And this is kind of what I meant earlier about him being the best detective. He always knows where everybody is. And
does it show any of that like work, or is it just like he just is there?
Yeah, he's just there. Like, it shows there's a lot of panels with him like silhouetted or wearing a hat or wearing a trench coat, and in the background, right, it'll show the people he's following in the foreground and him real small in the back as he's thinking.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool approach.
Absolutely. It shows that he's not magic. He doesn't know where everybody is by default, but it is kind of magical. It's plot armor. He's must be the best detective in the world, or he has like amazing contacts, right?
Right, but they're doing the legwork, because even Batman has kind of a magical realism on his detective stuff, because he'll just ask his computer, and somehow the computer has all the answers.
Computer knows, yeah,
right.
Or Batman has contacts everywhere,
right? Or it's kind of like that CSI science where it's like enhance, and whatever. He somehow has the thumbprint database for the entire world or whatever.
Exactly. By the way, enhance doesn't exist, people. So
yeah, that's not a thing.
That's not how it works. You can take pixels away. You can add pixels, but you have to guess.
Yeah, ask two people who have worked in printing their whole lives and how immediately irritated. No, it doesn't work like that.
The only time it's awesome is in Super Troopers.
Right. That is an actual portrayal of how it works. It's usually just you saying it to yourself as a joke. It doesn't really work that way. But no, I appreciate that. Enhance. I did that all the time at work. But I appreciate that this is going to the lengths of showing, like, okay, he doesn't have a magic computer. That's probably maybe what it was before with the battle van and everything. Like,
right.
He could just magically be where he needed to be. This is showing him doing the legwork, following people around, and then it leads to the superheroics later.
Yeah, he's doing his own reconnaissance. It just happens to be a little bit magic, which is fine.
I mean, it's comic book level, but it's not egregious. Like, I'll give it a pass for that.
I mean, and it kind of makes sense. This is not a new Punisher. He knows the city, so he knows where all these people go.
And it's also not like a detective book. Like, you're here to see him shoot people. Like, so
exactly.
We're putting in the appropriate amount of work to show that he's doing the legwork. Then we get to the shooting people.
So now he's following Carlo, and long story short, he follows Carlo, who looks like a little rat fuck.
I know how you feel about those guys.
Yes. A very specific look.
If anybody who listens to this watches Red Letter Media, Jerimey has just an unnatural hatred for Rich Evans.
And it's not even him. It's not him as a person. It's his voice.
I put on a video once. I was like, "Oh yeah, check out these guys," and it was like nails on chalkboard. It was an immediate revulsion. It's like, no, little make it stop.
Fuck voice, yeah. And if those guys ever catch wind of me talking shit, it's not him. It's his fucking voice. Fucking talk lower or something.
I love you, Rich. I love your Midwestern midwife laugh. I love it. But go ahead.
Apologies. It's very not cool, but yeah, his voice is like nails on a chalkboard to me. But he's following Carlo Nucci up into this high rise, And long story short, he tricks Carlo into thinking that his girlfriend that he was with, stick with me, baby, and the sky's the limit kind of talk. Mm-hmm. He tricks him to thinking that this girl jumped out the window. And Carlo sees the open window. He freaks out. He's like, baby, what? Oh my God, no. And he sticks his head out to look. As soon as he does that, he's immediately grabbed by his hair and yanked out of the window. And there's not any kind of interaction between that frame and the next frame, which is the Punisher standing on the top of this building, holding Carlo Nucci above his head. He is bound and gagged, feet tied, arms tied behind his back, tape over his mouth, and he's literally just pressing him over his head.
Whoa.
And all of the talk in these next few pages is just the Punisher thinking about how he's here to let people know that he's back. And that this is the message they need to pay attention to. And he tosses Carlo off the building. And Carlo just head first, tears in his eyes as he races towards the street. and Frank is thinking to himself just how much he loves this job. So he kind of alludes to something else here. He says,
I just imagine like the song like New York, New York just like starts playing like right there, like da da da. I love this job. Da, 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 da.
No, yeah, he loves it. He loves, and again, Punisher's not a bad guy. He only kills the bad guys, but he's a little bit psychotic. He finds a lot of joy in this work.
Yeah. Tossing people off a building. That's a strong voicemail to leave. It's up there.
Yeah, he talks about, in his head, his inner dialogue is talking about how, he had a chance to kind of turn around. He had the angels showed me what heaven was like, a glimpse of heaven. And he talking about how they thought he could change and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, no, they're wrong. And he's got this look on his face with a big splat sound effect in the back.
Oh, I saw that one.
Enjoys it. Yeah.
It's a great panel. Yeah. I think that's one of our thumbnails.
Yeah, no, and it's fantastic, and that's the face that he makes. All right, so that's the first issue. It ends with Frank throwing a dude off of a building. It's great. So in this chapter 2 is really all about kind of establishing how powerful Ma Nucci is and what Frank is up against. Right?
Okay.
She's a big player in the crime world. She has dirt on all the bigwigs in New York, all the police captains, the mayor, just everybody, right? She's very powerful.
Okay.
So you kind of get the sense of, Frank isn't just going after just criminals, right? Like he's not playing around. He's going after somebody with a lot of power. Mm-hmm. And she, in the beginnings of this chapter, she's enlisting the help of the precinct captain to hunt down Frank. Like 3 of her sons are dead.
Right.
Or I think that's all of her sons. Yeah, it doesn't mention any other sons. So like all of her kids are just kaput, right?
Right.
And we see that Ma Nucci's, let's see if I say this word right, consigliere.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Consigliere is he's the one in charge of trying to get this all taken care of, right? He's on the phone with the captain, basically yelling into his ear about how much dirt they have on everybody if they don't get their shit together and get Frank or, the Punisher off the streets, that, it's a world of hurt for all of these uppity New York folk, right?
To be fair, it is 3 homicides. Like to go to the police with that.
Sure.
That's like a reasonable thing. Like
absolutely.
It's not you're our private bodyguard. No, that's 3 murders. You gotta handle those.
3 murders.
Yeah.
And the captain, he kind of, you bring up a good point, because he kind of says like what am I supposed? He hangs up and he's like, what am I supposed to do? All of his cops love the Punisher. They literally he makes our job way easier. They just kind of play cleanup for the most part when he's around.
Like literally with a mop and bucket.
Literally. And so he's like, who do I put on this? Nobody wants to touch this. It's like a rock and a hard place for this captain, right?
Sure.
He's being told that he has to take care of this, but he has nobody. And then we're introduced to a new character, and his name is Martin Soap. Detective Martin Soap. Martin Soap is kind of like the precinct loser. He's never solved a case. Everything goes wrong for this poor guy, right? Down on his luck kind of detective story with him.
Okay.
And, there's a lot of dialogue between these people, but the gist is that the captain is like, hey, She wants me to put somebody on it. I'll put somebody on it. Martin
Oh.
Soap. You piece of shit loser. Nobody fucking cares about you. You know, the like the lieutenant or whoever's standing behind the captain's got this smirk on his face. So
Okay.
they're giving him an impossible task.
So they don't want this case to be solved. So they're saying,
Yeah.
all right, well, we'll give it to this asshole and we'll be fine. Like, technically, we're looking into it, but
That's right.
whatever. Got it.
He did what he was told. He put, quote unquote, his best man on it. He put his best worst man on it.
He put the best man for the job on it.
Exactly. For the job that he does not want to be done right. He put Soap on it. And, you know, it shows them putting up a piece of shit little sign for his fake ass office. They kick his ass into that room and it's full of these boxes and everybody's just laughing at him, right? So everybody is in on this joke. Martin Soap, he knows.
Wow.
He knows that he's got no chance in this. This is ridiculous, right? He knows it. He knows who he is in the precinct, and it's really pathetic.
So is he even gonna like try? Like, is he like, this is my chance to prove myself, or is it like, yeah, I'm this
No.
asshole. I'm just gonna sit on my hands here and wait to get my pension.
Yeah, no, it's big, deep sighs, slumped shoulders, and like a fuck kind of attitude.
Okay, got
You
it.
know, it doesn't go well for him for a while. Let's put it that way.
All right.
But the consigliere, how do you say
That's a
it
tough
again?
one. It's just like one of those wiggly Italian words.
Consigliere.
Yeah, there you go. Try like think The Godfather. Like that
Yeah, you
was,
gotta. Yeah,
yeah.
talk with your hands.
Yeah, put your fingertips together.
Yeah.
Now say it.
Yeah,
Consigliere.
the consigliere. He not only is employing, you know, the police force or what he thinks is good cops on the job. He's also hiring a bunch of trained killers, right? And the trained killers are, you know, the best at what they do kind of situation. Just like it's a trope. So, you know, these guys are all awesome. And the Frank knows who these guys are because it just so happens through magic plot armor, he is sitting right behind the table that these people are at having this discussion. So he knows everything the consigliere is up to, right? Mm-hmm. So he just tracks down the killers that were hired and kills them before they even get out of their fucking car.
Very efficient. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
Like, for example, he says Harry Heck Thornton, 100% Arkansas redneck, big time pistol fighter, quick as lightning. Old story about Heck, outdraws 4 state troopers, kills 3, last one gets off a shot. Heck ducks it and shoots him dead. Dodged a bullet. And as he's saying dodged a bullet, he's pulling the trigger of his automatic weapon, whatever it is. And he says, but not 30. he lit him up while he's sitting in his car.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's kind of how he goes through the 3 people that were hired to off him. No problem. We see Detective Soap. He's looking at the crime scene of where Carlo splatted on the concrete, right? And once again, nobody's working with this guy. Their cars are driving over the crime scene because it's the middle of the road in like downtown New York. Like they're like stopping traffic. Are you fucking crazy?
Yeah.
And the chalk outline is legs and hands that are really spread apart. You know, like literally like a cartoon outline of this really flat body.
Right.
And you know, blood splatter. It's pretty
it's a
funny.
good way to show, you know, like to show it without showing it.
Yeah, that was the guy he threw off the building.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a quick, you know, visual gag for that, but I like that.
So we also find we're introduced to another character, a behavioral psychologist that has been tasked to team up with Detective Martin to try and figure this shit out. And his name is Buddy Plug.
Sure.
Buddy Buddy Plug.
All right.
Most people call him Bud, he says.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And he's the rest of the task force. So yet again, you know, given somebody who is zero use and has no chance of helping, and Bud Plug, he's a very sad looking fellow.
It's like a disgusting 70s cop show, like, you know, like Bud Plug and Soap.
So you know, Detective Soap is talking to Bud, trying to come up with some kind of plan, basically. And Bud Plug drops the bomb on Detective Soap. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm actually not a cop. I'm a behavioral psychologist." Like, Soap just looks at him like, "Jesus fuck, what do I do with this?" Right? We get a little bit more interactions with Frank and his neighbors. You come to find, these are all very nice people, just regular folk living in a regular apartment building, and they happen to be living next to the Punisher, and they don't have a fucking clue, right?
Hey, we've all been there.
Yeah, like Joan brings him cookies. At first, he answers the door, and the look on his face is one of pure disdain, right? He does not want to be opening the door to this woman. But he goes ahead and takes the cookies. He doesn't want her to make a scene if he says no.
Right.
He decided that the best course of action is just to accept them. He's at his table eating cookies, and he says that they're pretty good. So he got a nice little snack.
Hey.
Mr. Bumpo's shown getting 4 pizzas delivered, and as he's leaving, he sees Dave, and Dave promptly reminds him it's Spacker Dave.
Right. I wonder if that's a Garth Ennis thing, because he's English. I wonder if that's just a term he uses that we've just never heard before.
It's very possible, yeah. Frank calls him Dave, and he keeps, Spacker Dave, He's never angry about it. He's a nice guy.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because don't push it. Just
Right.
It's not worth dying over.
It's not worth dying over at all, no. Especially since Frank was leaving the house to, he's in a mindset.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
He's kind of in a mode.
Don't interrupt.
Yeah.
Daddy's working.
So we see, like I said earlier, Frank was sitting behind the consigliere listening to all of these things, and he heard where to meet, what time to meet, and he shows up there instead of the hired killers because Frank already took care of them.
Right.
And Ma Nucci's right-hand guy, he's sitting in the car getting pissed off. He's like, where the fuck are these people? You pay good money. And you see Steve Dillon he's very fond of car scenes. There's a lot of scenes in The Preacher, a lot of panels in The Preacher where people are in cars and they're interacting in cars.
Yeah.
And this is no different. We see the consigliere, he's looking out the window. He's looking away from the driver, kind of talking to the cosmos. Where the fuck are these people? And we see that his driver gets snatched by knife point, pulled out of the car. And he turns around and Punisher sitting next to him instead of his driver. He's surprised, to say the least. Some dialogue happens, and they're driving down the road, and he says, "Hey, put Ma Nucci on speakerphone." And they're going down the highway like a bat out of hell, right?
Okay.
And he says, "I'm coming for you. I took care of your shit-eating sons. Now I'm coming after you." And he's like, and here's one more message, and he points a gun at the consigliere and says, "Get out." And he's like, "What? You gotta be crazy. We're on the highway going 100." And he's like, "You got one chance." And that's when he points the gun.
I would go.
Yeah, he does. He takes it. He'd rather take
tuck and roll.
And he screams as he's flying out the car, right? And he's yelling at Ma, this is it. I'm coming for you next. And we see the consigliere. He's on the ground and he's busted up. He's missing teeth. His eyes swollen shut. And he's like, I don't believe it. I'm alive. I'm alive. Right. And it's written like he doesn't have any teeth. He can't talk. And then he's ran over by a semi.
Ah, man, I just knew it. As soon as I heard you say and then he says, I was like, oh, roll out of the way.
Roll, man. Don't talk. Yeah.
Out of the road.
You wasted your chance. He gave you a chance and you wasted it. Just like Ponytail. Wasted. When the Punisher gives you a chance, you need to fucking take it and run.
Just take it, yeah. Cut your losses. Tuck and roll.
So this issue was really just more about him kind of setting up the fact that he's going after Ma Nucci. We see a little bit of interaction with his neighbors, but in the book it's not a huge part of it. I had mentioned the movie before. There's a lot of exposition that takes place with his neighbors in the movie. Yeah.
Does he have the same kind of inner dialogue kind of thing in the movie?
Yeah, actually, if I remember correctly, there is a lot of that. He has way more interaction with his neighbors in the movie. A lot of the characters are still just zany. They don't get as zany. I mean, this is Garth Ennis after all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the issue ends. We're introduced actually to a priest, and he's currently taking confession. And this is kind of a minor story that starts to pick up right here in this issue. That's, kind of aside of Frank going after the Nucci's. And we see this priest, he's taking confession of this young fella, and he starts to say all the horrible shit that he's done. And he's like, so are you going to absolve me? And he's like, absolve you? And the priest gets pissed. And he busts into the other side of the door with an axe and just says... He says, I'll absolve you. And the kid inside the confessional, he says, holy. And he says, yes, the holy. I am the holy. And he proceeds to axe murder this poor guy.
What? It's a bad church.
It's a bad church. It's not that wrong place to confess. And we get a lot of like schwak, chalk, slunch, chalk.
Oh, yeah.
And the sound effects is the axe going
good
into
axe murder sounds.
Yeah, real good. And then the priest, he feels sorry. Oh my God, what have I done? I can't believe I've done this again. So we find that this is not the first time Mr. the Holy has killed somebody during confession.
Wow, and that's what he's going by, the Holy?
The Holy. That's
Right.
He's the Holy. So,
right.
Chapter 3, Issue 3, it's more of him just hunting down the Nucci's, right? We get a little bit more of Detective Soap and his behavioral psychologist, Bud Plug. And
I'm never going to not laugh when you say that.
Detective Soap and Bud Plug. And while Soap is trying to solve the impossible case, right? There's a lot of mopey talk. He gets a knock on the door from Plug, his behavioral psychologist, and he gives this long psychobabble report on who he thinks the Punisher is from his perspective, right?
Okay.
A shrink's perspective.
All right.
It's thoroughly unhelpful. and Detective Soap, he lets Bud Plug know how fucking pointless that shit was. And what a waste of his time. And he's like, holy hell, why did you bother me with this? Basically, right? There's a lot more to the dialogue. But basically, it's that. And I have to say, I did leave out a big action chunk at the beginning of issue 3 because it's awesome and I don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
So the issue does start with some action, but you gotta read it. It's awesome. It's so fun. It involves a flamethrower. Let's put it that way.
That's your one little teaser you'll throw out there.
That's the teaser.
Okay.
Flamethrower, lots of henchmen.
If you're part of the Flamethrower Appreciation Society, this issue is for you.
You know, Elon. Just because
this is where Elon Musk got the idea of giving away flamethrowers. This specific issue, he talked about it. I actually would believe that because he's a crazy person. Like
he is a bit of a nutter.
He's just middle of a TED talk. I really liked this issue of Punisher. It really inspired me.
So that is the teaser for the opening action scene. You'll just have to read it for yourself.
All right.
So Detective Soap, he basically tells Bud Plug to go fuck off, right? Like, this is a waste of time. And he slams the door behind him as he leaves the makeshift office, and Bud Plug has this horrible look on his face. It's like his eyes are wide, but his brow is furrowed in that really worried look, and his mouth is downturned. He did not expect to receive that kind of behavior, and it turns out yet again, he was brushed aside yet again. Oh. What he did, what he tried to do, didn't matter. Rejection, right? More rejection. And yeah, this issue is not a lot of Punisher stuff, because we get to see a little bit more of the Holy and what he's going through. He's trying to clean up the mess he made, and he's interacting with this nice, deaf, old, and blind cleaning lady, and she's there on the wrong day. She's not supposed to be there. She doesn't know what day it is, but she's there to clean the church.
All right. That's
her job. She can't hear, she can't see, and she just goes about helping the priest clean up the mess because he spilt the confessional wine all over the place.
Oh, that's dark.
And she needs to help clean it up.
That's messed up.
Well, he's reluctant at first. He agrees with you. The holy, he's like, I can't believe I'm allowing this to happen, but he does, and he lets little old lady help him clean up his messes.
That's not okay. The holy.
We see a little bit more interaction between Frank and his neighbors, so there's a little bit more insight into the kind of people that he's living with. They're all very nice people. Mr. Bumpo is actually having his toilet replaced because the porcelain one just couldn't support him anymore. He says that the new one is made of plate steel, and then Mr. Bumpo actually asks if they come in adamantium, because that might be better.
So are these like are these like little like palate cleansers? Like
kinda.
Like do you see,
Yeah.
like it's kind of like gets dark, and then all right, here's like some like kind of like light sitcom moments.
Yeah,
with our friends.
yeah, you
back
can
at the
kind of think
apartment.
of it like that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, we'll go from, like I said, we'll go from flamethrowers and henchmen,
Right.
you know, screams and horrible suffering,
Yeah.
to Spacker Dave has a giant magnet on his nose ring. You know, and Mr. Bumpo's getting his toilet replaced, and Joan is asking very timidly, very meekly, if he liked the cookies, and Frank decides to say yes, he enjoyed them, thank you. You know.
Nice.
So yeah, palate cleanser. That's a good way to look at it.
That's
these
what it
little,
feels like with the
Yeah.
pacing. It's like violent, and then like some, you know, kind of explicit kind of darkness kind of stuff, and then do like back at the apartments.
And it's funny too, because it's overlaid with his inner dialogue, which is still very much dark. You know, and his face never changes. He's always fucking pissed. You know,
It's like
always furrowed browed. He's always fucking mad.
it's like if Ross was actually the Punisher, you know, and like the times that we see him is when he's back at the apartment with the rest of the friends, you know, just like relaxing, but like
Right.
his actual like night job is murdering mobsters.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
It's-
I would watch that show. So the whole time he's interacting with his neighbors, he's thinking, and he actually saw some news. Nucci family hires Nelson and Murdoch. And if
Oh.
anybody knows those names, that would
Yeah.
be Matt Murdoch and Foggy Nelson, the crack ace team of lawyers. You know, if you need a job done, they'll do it usually for free.
Yeah, do a lot
You
of
know?
pro bono, and that's
That's
like
right.
our part of our New York family. You know, it's
Yeah.
our you know, Daredevil, Spider-Man, Punisher. You know, kind of the Fantastic Four, depending on
Yeah, bit.
whose universe it is. But yeah, those are, you know, this is your New York heroes.
But see, this is bad news for Frank. You know, he calls them do-gooders. You know, they're going to be a problem.
Yep.
He knows who Matt Murdock is. He knows that he's the Daredevil. And Frank says to himself, you know, that's the problem. The real problem is Matt Murdock and the guardian angel that follows him everywhere. So right there, we get a little glimpse. We know that the Punisher's going to have to deal with Daredevil.
Gotcha.
And Detective Martin Soap, he goes in, you know, he gets the autopsy report on Carlo Nucci. So Soap walks in to talk to Buddy, saying that they got Carlo's autopsy report back, which seemed a little useless since they know he was killed by being thrown off of a building.
Oh, what did he die of? Cancer.
He's kind of looking at the paper, and he's just like, I don't think there's anything we can really use. And Bud, he asks, and he looks up, and Bud is hanging from his own tie from the ceiling.
Whoa. Aw, I liked him.
So Bud Plug committed suicide.
Aw.
Yeah, pretty sad. I mean, you kind of saw it coming the way he was drawn. He was not a happy guy. Not a happy fellow.
I'm gonna miss that character because it made me laugh every time you said his name. See if like somewhere in the 6th issue you can just like throw his name in there just for fun. That'd be great.
Bud Plug.
It still works. Rest in peace. R.I.P.
Rest
Bud
in
Plug.
peace, Bud Plug.
Yeah.
So we see a very quick panel of the Holy doing what the Holy does. He, forgive me, I'm horrible. I can't believe I would do this. Somebody comes in and says, I need to confess. He's like, what? And he goes on another rampage. Then we get to see, right before the issue ends, we get to see Soap getting made fun of by the captain and all of the other people about Buddy Plug's suicide note. And basically it's saying, I just wanted to help people. After all these years of being rejected in one way or another, I thought, you know what, I can become a behavioral psychologist and try and help. And no matter what, rejection. So that's it. Oh yeah. P.S. Tell Detective Soap he won't have to put up with any more of my psychobabble.
Aw.
And then the captain says, geez, Soap, what'd you say to this guy? Soap is obviously distressed about it.
Well, that's
feels
good.
horrible.
At least he feels bad about it.
Yeah. Detective Soap is not a bad guy. He's just a bad detective.
Kind of a jerk.
A little bit of a jerk. Oh, man. So that's issue 3. So chapter 4, issue 4. This whole issue is pretty much Frank being pursued by Manucci herself and a whole lot of her henchmen. And it's through the zoo. You can probably see where this might be going based off of some of the art you found earlier.
Yay.
Yeah. Basically what happened was that Frank was doing some reconnaissance, right? And it just so happened, for whatever reason, bad luck, bad timing, one of the henchmen happened to look right at Frank. Right? Like Frank was just glanced. And right when he glanced, this guy glanced right back, looked right in his face. And for whatever reason, it clicked. And he just opened fire immediately. Didn't even give him a warning. Just bad luck, right?
That happens a lot.
I know, right? Just bad luck. Bad timing, bad luck. And that's how the chapter starts. That's how I keep saying chapter, it's an issue, but that's how the issue starts. He gets made almost immediately when he's trying to pursue Manucci. He was going for the kill, basically, right? He's all in his getup. It's during the day even. It's not even at night. Like he had an opportunity, but this guy made him before he could take it. And he gets shot and he falls over the wall of the zoo. And Manucci gets out of the car. She's you can imagine Steve Dillon's art in your head. You read The Preacher. Imagine an old crone look.
Yes.
Yeah. She's wearing a skin tight black leather suit, but she's probably, 70.
Yeah.
Real spindly, real gross,
Yep. I'm just imagining a Jesse's grandmother.
Gosh, I cannot wait to cover The Preacher. So she gets out of the car and she's like, that's him. Go get him, right? I want his head. And so that's basically this issue, man, is they're just following him through the zoo trying to get him. But it's freaking the Punisher, and these guys are numbskulls, right?
It's such a great set piece, though. It's like, all right, well, we've done city, we've done, apartment buildings, we've done through casinos, whatever. Where can we send him? I don't know. A zoo?
The zoo. New York Zoo.
Okay, let's do it.
So there's a lot of really great kills in the second, because like you just said, it's a great set piece for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And without giving too much away, he dispatches some of these henchmen in some really comical ways, frightening, terrifying ways. For example, one of the kills is he's been shot, right? Was he made, he actually caught a bullet to the side and the shoulder.
Okay.
So kind of missing the Kevlar. So he is bleeding.
Ugh. Okay.
So he is on the run, and he was caught unawares, a little unprepared, right?
Okay.
He grabs this guy. He actually, the first one he gets, and he says, "Oh, thank you, Lord," because the first one to come through the door is the dude who made him, right, and shot first. Mm-hmm. He grabs this guy by the throat and by the crotch, and he lifts him up and holds his ankles and dunks him into the piranha tank. And he just holds him there as the piranhas go nuts. So you can imagine as he leaves that scene and his Goomba henchmen come behind, they find a completely shredded skeleton with pant legs shin down. Still has his shoes on, but nothing else.
Sure. Awesome.
So yeah, that's this. They go through this whole thing, and he's just taking care of these people. There's a snake, there's piranha, like I just said. And in the midst of him fighting for his life, trying to get out of the zoo, because he doesn't want to be in there, right? He's not prepared to do much of anything. He has to get really creative. But so he's running.
Right.
But we're also introduced to a new character, and it's Detective Molly von Richthofen. And she introduces herself as, hey, Martin Soap, you're the loser of the precinct. Well, I'm the biggest embarrassment. And Soap knows who this chick is by name. She has a bit of a reputation, and they have a little discussion about, you know what? She has a plan to change their luck. She has a plan to finally catch the Punisher, and she has to catch the Nucci's. That's her case. She's trying to catch the Nucci's, right?
Okay.
Two impossible tasks, and she's got a plan. And she's wearing like sunglasses. She's smoking a cigarette, putting her legs up. She's a real cool, calm, and collected kind of character, right?
All right.
Real slick. Got a plan. So we meet her, but it's again we cut back, and the Punisher's losing blood, and he's getting a little weak, getting a little tired, but he's still running. And that's when he falls into another enclosure. And at this point, Ma Nucci's actually running with some of her henchmen. She's so rabid with anger, right? She can smell the blood in the air. She's gonna go and see him die herself. So she's in there with him.
Yikes.
And he's injured. He falls into this enclosure and finds 3 sleeping polar bears.
Okay. Yeah, not since Lost have I been this intrigued by polar bears.
By
a story.
polar
I'm
bears.
like, okay, how is Punisher fist fighting polar bears?
I will read, okay?
All right.
I'll just read it. So he falls into the enclosure, and he says, great, I needed that, right? He falls on his shoulder that was shot. Not a good thing to fall on me. And then Ma Nucci says, come on, he's wounded. He can't get too far. And shoot straight this time, right? She's berating her henchmen the whole time. And Frank thinks to himself, damn, Snake took the last punk's gun. So that was an opportunity lost because the Snake took it. Nothing in here he can use as a weapon. And that's when he comes upon these polar bears, and they're sleeping kind of off to the side. You know, he's wandering around. He sees them like in a little nook. And then we see Ma Nucci trying to climb down. And she's like, did I tell you to speak? Get in there. Be ready to help me down. Like, she is just dead set on getting in there. Well, one of the bears wakes up and is like, got this real like, huh? Like, what's going on? And he says, cuddly, lovable, docile. That won't do at all. And he fucking punches her right in the face. So the bear's looking at him like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, this isn't what I need. I need you to be pissed. Right. And so he slugs the bear.
Yeah, because these bears, if they're in a zoo, they're used to, like, you know, being fed or something. They're like, oh, there's somebody in here. This is weird. I was sleeping. All right. Well, what's up, dude?
Yeah. It's like, it's still not a good idea to get into an enclosure with a bear, but I would say that a bear that was in captivity for that long would be a little hesitant, maybe.
Hopefully.
At least in this book they are. So Ma Nucci actually climbs down. She's stepping on the back of her henchman. She's a real piece of shit, right? And she's like, stop whining, imbecile. I'm almost down. And then this shows Frank hauling ass towards her. Just full sprint, running at her. And she just yells, she freaks out because she sees basically the fucking specter of death running right at her.
Sure.
And he jumps off the back of the henchman that was still on his hands and knees to get her down. And he just launches up onto the side, and she says, well, don't just stand there. There he is. Get him. And the henchman is looking up and looking behind her, and they're up on their haunches or up on their hind legs, and they're growling. And he's like, it's bears. And he's got this smile on his face like, oh, bears. And then one bear with one strike swaps his head right off his shoulders.
That's how I would die.
Oh, look, bears.
Bears. Oh, no.
So his head's gone.
Oh. And
Frank turns around. He's made it safely out, right? He turns around. He says, let's just pause to savor the moment. That's what he's thinking. And Ma Nucci's like, no, get away from me. And he's like, oh, yes, one of the greats.
Wow.
And we see her screaming as the bears come upon her, right? And then he says, sirens are coming. He's got to go. What a shame, because he wanted to watch.
So her and her henchmen get eaten by angry polar bears?
So, yeah, they chase him through the zoo for the whole issue. They all got, killed in very creative and fun ways. And Ma Nucci herself gets attacked by polar bears after her henchman that got his head knocked clean off right in front of her.
Whoa.
And then we get, and actually the chapter ends with one last shot of the Holy, and he's digging graves in the back. He's got more bodies to bury, and he's Why has God forsaken me?
Oh, boo-hoo.
And then he sees it. I know, right?
You're a murderer.
You're so tortured. But he gets hit in the face with the newspaper flying through the air, and he sees that the Punisher is back and at it again. And for some reason, he takes it as a sign. His, very rational thinking mind says, wow, this guy's like me. I'm like him. I'm no longer alone.
Oh, no.
We're the same, right? So the Holy fancies himself like the Punisher. The one and the same, kindred spirits.
He's not wrong.
Not wrong, but wrong.
I was like...
And we'll find out later in the series.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Deal.
Yeah, we'll find out.
All right.
And I actually misquote. I didn't misquote. I misspoke. It wasn't the last thing we see. The last thing we see is Soap and Richthofen. Mm-hmm. They're actually at the scene at the zoo, and one of the beat cops says, "Oh yeah, Ma Nucci actually lived."
Oh, snap!
Yeah,
they thought she was already dead. The polar bear's like, "Oh no, that thing's dead." Yeah, look at it, it's gross.
It's jerky. We don't want to chew on it.
That one's gone bad already.
Yeah, exactly. Tastes funny. So we find out at the end of that issue that actually Manucci survived. None of her henchmen did, but she did.
Yikes. All right.
So chapter 5 rolls around. First panel, Manucci laying on a stack of pillows with a card that says "Get well soon." A little cute little teddy bear on the front.
Aw.
And she's missing her scalp, both arms, and both legs.
Whoa.
And she's yelling at her henchman, "What do you mean? How am I doing?"
That seems like a reasonable outburst.
Yeah. She's not happy. And chapter 5 is she lives through the attack. No arms, no legs, no scalp. And she's even more angry than before, right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, she's talking with her henchmen, and her henchmen are trying to cheer her up. They're trying to be good guys. It's not so bad. That kind of thing.
It could be worse.
Remember, this is a crime family, so these guys are like cousins and shit, right?
Yeah.
Nephews and all that kind of thing.
Right.
And she's like, "Are you fucking brain damaged? Shoot your cousin in the face." And they're like, they're like, "What?" And she's like, "Did I fucking stutter? Are you deaf?
No.
Kill cousin Stevie." And then they try and, "Hey, come on. You don't mean it. Like, this is crazy." And she's like, I'm not joking around. Look at me. Does it look like I'm in any kind of place to be saying anything crazy? And she just silently, yeah, I know, right? She just silently looks at one of the henchmen kind of behind him. And he takes his gun out and just shoots all of them. So he wastes all the cousins. She's like, "Good. Now we can get back to business." She had to kill the dummies, right? So we get a little bit more story into who she is and what she's all about.
That tells a lot right there.
She's pretty rough. Yeah, she's a rough lady.
Sure,
she's super not happy. We get a little bit more info on Frank's neighbors. Mr. Bumpo. He's not doing well. The poor man is having another one of his coronaries, and they had to break a hole in the wall to get him out. So. So it's pretty rough for him.
He's escalating for him. And again, it's like, a couple people get eaten by polar bears. We have a body screaming with no arms and legs who commands the murder of her family. And back to the apartments.
Yeah, we got Spacker Dave standing on the street watching Mr. Bumple being removed through a hole in the wall. Then we got Joan bringing him a pie. She says, "I baked too many pies."
Sure. It happens all the time.
She's obviously fancies him, but
sure,
Frank's not into that. He had one wife, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it didn't work out well.
No.
Yeah.
No. Little bit more talk between Richthofen, whatever I said her name was, Detective Molly, and Detective Martin Soap, and just a little bit more of their plan. Not super important to the story.
Okay.
It's kind of that backstory of these two people trying to fix something that's unfixable. You can't fix or catch.
So are they
or
just
solve.
like brewing like a dumb plan in the background, or are they actually making progress?
They think that they're clever. She thinks that she's clever.
Okay.
Right? She thinks that her plan is foolproof, but it's not.
Okay.
The Punisher is always too many steps ahead.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So by the time they try and do anything, he's already gone kind of situation.
Okay. So it's not so much like a cat and mouse game. They're just following him eventually.
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, I have yet to read the last 6 issues.
Okay.
You know, we're splitting this into 2, so
Right.
my memory is foggy. I could be wrong about that, but the way I remember it is that it's just they're always one step behind kind of situation.
Right.
Yeah. But more importantly in this issue is we actually see how him coming back, the Punisher coming back, we find that some people are starting to do like copycat type stuff.
Oh. Okay. Well, yeah, like our the Holy. I mean, if they find
Holy,
a kindred
right.
spirit there, yeah, there's going to be others.
Exactly. And the Holy is really settling into this role. Like he's starting to not ask for forgiveness so much, right? He goes ahead and he kills the sinners that come to him in confession. His nice old cleaning lady helps him with the problem of cleaning up the mess. And that's business as usual for him at this point.
You know that little old lady's going to go to hell now, and it's going to be his fault.
I know.
You covered up the murders of dozens of people. I did what?
That's effed up. It's not cool.
Rude.
Totally not cool of the Holy. That's a shit move. But we are also introduced to a couple other copycats. We're introduced to Mr. Payback.
Oh, good Lord.
And Mr. Payback, he has a problem with corporate USA. So he has a problem with all the rich people, all these big corporations screwing over the little guy.
Uh-huh.
And he finds his way into corporate offices and just hoses everybody down with his automatic weapons. That's his whole deal. If you're a big wig in a company, you're going to die because you did something wrong.
All right.
You screwed somebody over.
Got it.
So that's, time for payback. That's his catchphrase.
Oh, goodness. Right.
Yeah. But then we're also introduced to the Elite. His name is Elite. Not the Elite. It's I am Elite.
Okay.
And he is a white suit wearing, white mask wearing, blonde haired Aryan son of a bitch.
Ew.
So these vigilantes, these copycats, they're kind of off the mark.
Yeah. They've like justified it in their head. It's like, oh, he kills people he doesn't like. Got it.
Exactly. And
Close.
he's trying to say that he's killing the bad guys when he's just a racist piece of shit.
Right. Yeah.
But also insane because he comes across as he's walking wherever, and he comes across a nice old lady who's walking her little poodle who pisses on the sidewalk, and he caps the dog.
That's rude.
Yeah. I mean, he says, it's a nice neighborhood, ma'am. Let's try and keep it that way.
But I mean, the dog peeing on the sidewalk, that's fine. It's the pooping on the sidewalk you got to clean up, but the pee just goes away.
Well, not to Elite. That was a big no-no.
What a prick.
And that dog had to go.
Rude. Yeah.
So now Frank's return has actually spurred some copycat vigilante kind of things, and it's not good.
Right.
These guys, we're gonna hear more about them in the future, I'm sure. Frank definitely doesn't want that kind of fan club.
Yeah.
There's only one Punisher. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yeah. And that's really all we need. We don't need any more. One Punisher bad enough.
His body count is stable enough.
Yeah.
His numbers are high.
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't need an assist.
No, we don't need your contribution.
No. Stay out of it. Just go home. That's basically that chapter. It's kind of a little all over the place, but it's more about showing that there's some copycats going on. But a very important tidbit is that right at the end is we're introduced to this slimy little guy who's talking to Manucci. He saw that there was a reward for any information on the Punisher. Just so happens that this fellow lives across the street from the apartment building that Frank is living in. And he says, I heard there's a $10 million reward. And she says, to kill him, your information, if it's correct, is worth $10,000. Well, he seems to be good with that because she says, go ahead and go with him. Find out if he's telling the truth, and if he's not, make it messy. So he better hope he's got accurate information.
Yeah. Hey, she ain't got time to waste. She just send a message.
No.
Yeah, don't be screwing around.
And I'm assuming a little bit of time passes because now we're into chapter 6, the last issue for this episode, and a little bit of time has passed because the news is kind of picking up on some of these copycats. Okay. So I'm assuming a few days. Not a lot of time.
Got it.
But the snitch, he's holed up in a car with these henchmen, and this is where I saw him. Don't worry, it's him. You can't miss it. You'll know as soon as you see him, kind of deal, right? That's kind of the gist of that. But we also get to see more action from Mr. Payback. He shoots down a helicopter with some guys in it. We get to see Elite from his bathroom window. He uses a sniper rifle to kill some dudes in a car. And so happens that he just got done with a shower. I don't know. Maybe he heard their music. Maybe they were bumping something, and he was like, "Oh no, that can't happen." So he puts his gun away, and then through the door he gets a knock. And Dad, oh, what is it, Tim? Mom says, "Can you hurry up because the car is on it? The car is on its way, and the play starts at 8." And he's having this interaction with his kid.
Ew.
And they want to order pizza, and he's like, "Did you do your chores? Did you do your homework? How about your sister?" And he just got done killing 4 dudes in a car.
Yeah.
Out of his own bathroom window.
Way to compartmentalize.
Right. Yeah. So we're now sitting in the car, like I had said earlier, with the snitch and the 2 henchmen. And he's trying to convince them that his information is good. You just wait. Frank is preparing for his night out, and he's thinking to himself, you know what? This is it. I'm closing down the Nucci's for good. Okay. He's packed up his bag. He's talking about how, he's been at this apartment way too long. People know him now. People know his face. He's in and out too much during the day, during the night. Yeah. It's too familiar, right?
They bring him baked goods.
They bring him baked goods, right? Yeah. And he's on his way out, and Dave says, "Hey, Mr. Smith, what's up? You going out?" And he's like, "Spacker Dave." And he's like, "Whoa, you got it." So he kind of he gives Dave a little crumb there to, I know, I saw, I hear you. Your name is Spacker Dave.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what he's saying. He's saying, "I've been here too long," which is ironic because as he's walking out thinking those thoughts, the snitch is in the car, right? And as soon as he walks out the door, the henchmen are like, "I don't fucking believe it. It's him." They get Ma Nucci on the phone, who one of her henchmen has to hold up the phone to her ear because she's armless now.
I forgot.
And she's like, "What? Follow him. Get him. Bring him down, right? Get him, get him, get him." That is her only wish. Get that guy, right?
Yeah.
We get to see a little bit more of Detective Molly and Detective Martin. They're sitting outside of the Nucci's house, and they all rush off. They see a bunch of henchmen just tear ass out of there, right? And Soap is like, "Shit, they must have found him. They must know where he is. Let's follow him." And she's like, "No, that's not the plan. We need to stay here. It's all going to work out, Soap. Just trust me," kind of situation. Follow the plan, right?
Okay.
Frank is unfortunately surprised by them again. Just like at the zoo, he wasn't expecting these people, and they show up in force. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 cars all full of dudes, guns ablazing. He's jumping over the car, trying to get cover wherever he can. He tosses a friggin' what are those explosives that you put in it says front toward enemy, and it blows steel ball bearings everywhere. What is that thing called?
I know what you're talking about, but I have no idea. But I only know it from video games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Something like what do they call it? Metal Gear Solid. I don't remember.
I can't remember. We're terrible at that stuff. But he throws it through the window of their car and then detonates it.
Oh Jesus!
Because he's got it hooked to a wire, and that just takes that's the first car full of 5 dudes gone.
One down.
Right. Yeah, one down. And then he's got, I'm going to guess, is an M60, kind of like that Rambo gun where he's holding the belt.
Oh,
he's got the gun in one arm, and he's just, right? And he's just lighting up the second car. He's just tearing them apart, right? Guys are rolling out of the car. There's dead bodies all over the road now. He's wreaking havoc.
Yeah.
This time he was more prepared for the surprise attack because he had a bag full of guns and other weapons.
Yeah, I was going to say, he just luckily happened to have an enormous Rambo gun with him.
Exactly. It was in his backpack,
Sure.
You know how it goes. You carry it too, like me, M60 wherever we go.
Well, we are American.
Yeah. Well, we're not Texans, right?
No, I was for a little bit.
That's true, you were.
Yeah.
I forgot about
Which
that.
was the only place I ever shot a gun, was when I lived in Texas.
No, you shot a gun at your bachelor party.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So in the Texas of California, Sacramento.
That's a good way to put it. So yeah, big firefight, man. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of really funny scenes. There's, again, like I mentioned way in the beginning of the episode, these guys are yelling out names. Oh no, he got so-and-so. Oh, we know he got this person, right? And he's just dismantling these dudes. But he ends up actually catching a few bullets.
Oh.
Yeah. So he's kind of getting cornered. And he takes a shot to the chest, but the Kevlar deflected it.
Okay.
Punches another dude in the throat, kills him immediately. But then a couple of guys get the jump. And this time he gets shot near the chest area, and it goes through the Kevlar.
Ooh.
And then as he's walking up, he's gonna get this guy, right? And he gets shot 1, 2, 3, 4 more times, and he takes all of those bullets. Grabs the dude who was shooting him and breaks his fucking neck, and falls down with him though. So Frank is hurt.
Dang.
Frank's not doing good. They got the jump on him.
Yeah.
He got most of them, but his luck kind of ran out.
Whoa.
And he falls to the ground, and the last thing he sees before he blacks out is kind of the fire of all the cars just burning, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where the issue ends. The issue ends with him blacking out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he's full of holes.
Sure.
And a lot more henchmen have died. And even the ones that got him are dead. So he made sure to take them out before anything else.
All right. We know it's comic book law that he has to be taken alive. They can't just put a bullet in his forehead while he's down. They're going to have to take him somewhere complicated and tie him to a chair somewhere so he can escape. So,
well, see, they lucked out. He passed out from his wounds, but he was still alive. And so this is a perfect opportunity to take him to Manucci. That's my assumption.
Or put a bullet in his forehead and be done with this.
Which would be the smart thing to do, of course.
That's what Frank would do.
This is exactly what Frank would do. He doesn't waste time. He just wastes you.
Yes. And that's a policy that they should go by, because that's why there's one of him murders 50 of them.
And we see, we learn that lesson of what villains are capable of accomplishing if they drop the monologuing and bullshit and just took care of business, a la Old Man Logan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm assuming that might not be the case in this. We'll just have to wait and find out till next week.
Yeah. So we're gonna stop here, and so this will be our part 1, and then we're gonna do a part 2 next week to wrap up the rest of this murder circus.
Welcome back, Frank.
And called Welcome Back, Frank. All right.
Yeah, lots of killing, lots of dead henchmen, one armless, legless, scalpless Manucci. Poor old Buddy Plug, no longer with us.
R.I.P. Buddy Plug.
Just not appreciated in his time.
No, but appreciated by us.
Very much.
And he
will be missed.
he will be remembered here, always in the multiverse.
Yeah, that's the first 6 issues of Welcome Back, Frank, and I love it. So
nice. So you're enjoying it.
I can't wait to get to the next. Oh yeah, and I read it years ago when I first bought the trade. It's just been so long. Like I totally forgot that so many of these characters and situations were actually in that 2004 movie with Thomas Jane, which is very good, and you should watch it.
Yeah, I will. I think that'd be fun. Yeah, that was a heck of a story. I've never really run deep with Punisher, but I think this would probably be a good place to start.
I think it's because of who the team is behind this particular story. I think it's perfect for us. I have the sense that regular, quote unquote, regular Punisher might not be up our alley. Okay. This is more Ennis zaniness. Got it. Not so realistic.
Right.
Over the top brutality intermixed with silliness.
Yeah, there was that
typical Ennis stuff.
That whole polar bear scene. So yeah.
Polar bears getting punched in the face, armless crime family matriarchs. It's rough stuff.
Wow, nice. Well, thank you. That was awesome. That was a fun trip, and I look forward to doing the second half next week.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to move on to our next segment, the Hold List, where we talk about the other things we're enjoying, comic related and otherwise. And this week, I have a book. It is not really a comic book, but it is illustrated. So kind of counts. So, it's
it's in line.
Yeah, it's in the family. Yeah. So one thing I realized from you going over this Punisher book is that one of the great things about the Punisher is that he isn't real. That could be a real problem.
Right.
The vigilantism on that level. But if he was real, the folks in this book would probably keep him busy for a little while. So this week I want to talk about the last book on the left, and it is an oversized illustrated guide to the world of serial killers,
which are actually pretty interesting.
It is an interesting subject matter. It's a little gruesome.
Yeah.
This book is brought to us by the fine folks over at The Last Podcast on the Left, which is a very popular podcast, and it's a podcast about killers, the supernatural, and generally anything ooky and or spooky. So you got UFOs. They recently had a special on lake monsters, but they also cover brutal murderers,
which are spooky in their own damn right.
They're so much scarier. I like the episodes about lake monsters the best. That's much more my speed.
Serial killers are real.
So the hosts of the podcast are Marcus Parks, Henry Zabrowski, and Ben Kissel. They're three NYC comedians who kind of make getting through the subject matter a lot funnier than it has any right to be.
Sure.
And one of the things I do appreciate is that they don't glorify any of these people. These aren't like, oh man, this guy was so metal, he killed 20 people. It's always, this complete piece of crap killed these poor people, and he was a complete loser, and his life is horribly embarrassing. Let's talk about it.
And that's so good, because not a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but a few choice serial killers from past days have been built up as sex symbols and, really strange cult followings, right, which is actually really sad.
Yeah, it gets a little gross. So I do appreciate, it has that subject matter, but it's never glorifying or saying anybody's cool or sexy or any of that stuff. So the book is illustrated by Tom Neely and has an old Crypt Keeper EC Comics kind of vibe to it. And it's really like those old The Big Book of series from the 90s by DC. Do you remember those?
Remind me again what they were?
So they were called The Big Book of, and there was almost like a weird documentary series, which is probably why I remembered it. Well,
The Big Book of sounds familiar.
Right. So they all had titles like that. So it was The Big Book of Weirdos, or The Big Book of Conspiracies, or The Big Book of the Unexplained.
Right.
And if you liked those, like I did, then you'll find this familiar in that way. And so this book in particular, it's all about killers. There's no other supernatural kind of stuff in it. And it's broken down by killer. And you've got your
real serial killers.
Real killers. And it's broken down by killer, and you've got all your superstars here. You've got Bundy, you've got Gein, you've got Gacy, BTK, and the reason I triple check all my locks at night, Richard Ramirez.
Yeah.
Which has a new special on Netflix that I don't want to watch.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you hope that going into a documentary like that they don't do what you just mentioned. They don't glorify anything.
Right, exactly. And I don't want to go down that road. So, fun fact, Jerimey was at my house right after I got this book, and he was able to identify all of the serial murderers drawn on the front, and that was off-putting but not surprising in the least.
I know faces. I faces stick in my brain.
It's just standing there. It's like, oh, it's Dahmer and Gacy, and I was like, wow, you got all of them. You stay over there.
Yeah, you sleep that way.
Yeah, not surprised. But it's a big old honking book. It's really well written, and if you're familiar with their show, they have been able to capture their dynamic really well in the written form. So it's three people who do this show, and they each have their own dialogue in the book, and it's color coded, and it has the same tempo as the way they do their show, which was really fun to experience. And it's really funny too. It's as funny as it is horrifying, and it is absolutely horrifying. So check out the last book on the left by Marcus Parks, Henry Zebrowski, and Ben Kissel. And you'll have nightmares, but they'll have jokes in them. So
Nice.
that's kind of an improvement, right?
A little bit. And it makes it a little bit more palatable to read about these awful, terrible subhumans.
Yeah. It's a book I keep in my bathroom. And so, you just kind of like you read over a little bit and you go, God, oh, this is awful. I'm out of here. And then, wrap it up. So
It's a good place for it.
It is. Yeah, I don't want to give them the dignity of being on a shelf.
No kidding, right?
You're going to live in my bathroom.
Yeah, you're my taking a shit material.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, in case I ever run out of TP, your face next.
Oh, perfect. Was Richard Ramirez, was he was the Night Stalker?
Yes. Yeah.
Was he the one who would check doors?
Yep.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, so fucking scary.
I know. And it was after I listened to one of their podcasts about him years ago. And it was just like, yeah, if he came to your house and your door was locked, he thought it was a sign that he was to move on.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was like, I'm going to lock all my doors all the time.
Every single night. Yeah, he considered himself a demon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was heavy into like the fake metal scene, like the actual evil metal, like
Right.
just all made up bullshit that he had, convinced himself of.
Yeah, he's a creepy dude.
Ah.
Well, I mean, he died of cancer, so fuck him, right?
Yeah, I mean, like none of these guys go well. They just do a tremendous amount of damage on their way out.
They sure as fuck do. Yeah, he was one of the scariest ones for sure.
Yeah, he's got an interesting chapter in this book. It's not glorifying it, but when you find out, the all the things that happened in his life that led to that moment, or led to him being who he was, you're like, yeah, that all makes sense. Like this equation adds up.
Yeah,
This wasn't a
not
mystery.
a lot of surprises in that regard. Huh?
No, not to get too far into it, but yeah, BTK, totally fine, normal dude, just wanted to be evil. Richard Ramirez was essentially raised by Satan.
Right.
But both ended up awful human beings, came from very different places.
It's so crazy. BTK is crazy interesting too.
I'm actually on the BTK chapter right now, so it's fresh in my mind.
It's just as terrifying in different ways.
It's so terrible. But the humor in the book kind of helps you swallow it, down a little bit. Like
it's easier to digest. Absolutely.
they're just talking shit about him the entire time. So there'd be the facts, and then two comedians come in and roast him.
right.
Just over and over and over again. So enjoy that. You can get that at any. I think I picked this up at Barnes and Noble, so you can pick this up at any respectable bookstore, and I'm sure you'll end up on a list somewhere.
Sleep well.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a big, heavy, hardbound book, so keep it next to your bed. It might save your life.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice solid brick.
All right, that is going to lead us into our last segment, our IRL Hero of the Week, where we take a moment to spotlight heroes in our own universe. And speaking of cleaning up the streets earlier, our hero of the week this week is a Hillsborough County, Florida sanitation worker. And he is being called a hero after jumping into action to save a little boy from being crushed.
Very nice.
Now, you've raised young boys. They're pretty dumb,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, super dumb. I'm 40 and super dumb, so it doesn't stop when they're young.
Well, recently, 7-year-old Elias Quizada climbed into a garbage can while playing hide and seek outside his home.
Ooh.
And while hiding, the local garbage truck came by and scooped up the trash can and dumped it inside the garbage truck.
Oof.
Now, did you know that there are big spinny blades inside garbage trucks?
I wasn't aware of the blades, but I definitely was aware of the back panel that kind of comes down and scoots it all back.
Yeah, into blades. I didn't know that either.
Blades. I didn't have a clue.
Yeah, well, luckily the driver, Waldo Fidele, had his eyes on the surveillance camera and jumped into action and shut off the blade. and called 911.
Very nice.
So little Elias, he said, I got picked up and thrown to where I was going to be a mashed potato. He's actually kind of a funny kid. It was funny.
Yeah.
And then he said, I was thinking this might be the end for me.
No kidding.
So Elias and his grandmother are very grateful to Fidele and his quick actions that saved the young boy's life. And Quezada wanted to mention that he said thank you to the man for not crushing him to death.
Very polite.
Yeah, no, it was
A well-deserved thank you.
yeah, as a sweet kid, the guy was really nice, and he was just like, yeah, I'm trained to watch this camera. So as soon as, and you can see the footage, literally he just like dumps into the bin, and it's like
Just blop. Yeah.
everything stops, and then he gets out. But
Oof.
yeah. So he was
Scary
okay.
shit.
So Waldo, Fidele, you are our sanitation hero of the week. And thank you for looking out for the little children because they are so very,
Absolutely.
very dumb.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
No, that's actually, he said, I'm trained to watch this camera. But you know what? I bet you there's a large portion, I could be wrong in this assumption, that don't
Sure.
because complacency is real.
Sure. And, I'm sure you stare at it for long periods of time and nothing happens. And then you get a little, blasé about it. But not this guy, fortunately. Because, imagine if he, just wasn't paying attention and then, that would be a very different and very sad story.
Oof, that'd be rough.
Yeah. While they were waiting, the guy took a picture of the kid still in the truck, and he's just standing in the back of the truck. He's kind of laughing. I was like, all right, just wait right there. The police are coming.
Crazy. What a lucky kid.
Yeah.
He's really lucky. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So real world hero, just doing his job, but he saved a life. So
That's excellent.
awesome. Wanted to give him a shout out. All right, that will do it for this week. Next week, join us again as we go back to Punisher. We finish up the Welcome Back Frank storyline, and Jerimey's going to jump into the last 6 issues of that, and we're going to wrap up probably a very dramatic, very bullet-ridden story.
Very bloody, I'm sure. Yes. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be great. All right, email us at mindingthemultiverse@gmail.com. Find us at This Multiverse on Twitter, or leave us a comment on YouTube to recommend story arcs, tell us what we're wrong about, or if you know what Subway is using for the tuna in their tuna sandwiches, let us know. Jeremy's always looking for new dishes to give to neighbors he doesn't like.
It's made of hate, spite,
And mayonnaise. All right.
Ma Nucci's leftover giblets.
That's what it is. She's the secret ingredient.
She's the secret sauce. Old scabby lady.
I think you solved it. I'm glad we could go out on that.
Bleh.
All right. For Minding the Multiverse, I am Gabriel.
And I'm Jerimey.
And remember, all this is now canon.
Bud plug.
It still works. Rest in peace. R.I.P.
Rest in
Bud plug.
peace, Bud plug.
Yeah.